everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Hangout number 68. First, I just want to welcome everybody in the chat room. Let's see who is here. And if you'd like to be in the chat room, just click the link below and join Patreon. This is a patron-only chat room, which keeps our community civil. Hi, Christiane and Sandra's here. Lisa S. is here. Let's see, Maui Swift is here. Mary's here. Let's see, Sarah Adams is here. Sandra's here. Aunt Deanie is here, and I know somewhere it could be coming in just a few seconds, and I'll probably not say your names when you come in, but I'll try. And two Sandras. There's Sandra 1 and Sandra 2 here. So hello, second Sandra. Before I get going, I just want to let you know that if you see something strange during the show, this is the reason. So I'm setting up my lights, and apparently when I pulled out a chair, one of my lights fell, and it's one of these with it's a big metal box with really sharp edges, and it fell, and I stopped it with my face. Yeah, so right here, let's see, it's over here. I put makeup on it, but I didn't lose my eyeball, so I'm glad of that, because man, did that hurt when that sucker hit me. I didn't even know it hit me for a minute there, because it just so I think I'm getting a black eye and maybe some swelling. So if my eye changes during the show and they're like, what is happening to Pat? That's what's happening to Pat. So yes, it does hurt, but my eye is still there. So I'm not going to complain, but nobody beat me up. It's also important. I don't want anybody to think somebody punched me in the eye. Nobody did that. I did that to myself. So at any rate, did I use ouch, did you use a bruise kit? No, I didn't. And some might ask me if I used some kind of ice from the freezer. Well, I would have, except my freezer has died. So I'm looking around to decide whether to buy my new refrigerator, because the freezer is not freezing anymore. So there's no cold stuff. I can do that. But I'm still here. Exactly. You should see the other guy. Absolutely. Okay, so I am okay. Yeah, that hurt. Man almighty. Whew. Well, at least the lamp didn't break, right? That's good news. And you can see and hear me. That's good. I always forget to ask these days. And I have such good people here who let me know that they can see and hear me, which is good. All right, now, let me tell you something that's come up. As I've said many times before, I try not to do too much on Delphi Murders and the Idaho Murders because I'm not just going to jump on every piece of gossip. I did do one recently, maybe it was yesterday, very recently on Idaho, because I saw so many comments coming in that this is just like Ted Bundy, this is just like Danny Rowling, who are two serial killers. And I don't see anything at this point that leads me to believe that the Idaho murders have anything to do with a serial killer. Could be wrong. Maybe there's information out there I don't know, but I don't see it. And I thought the way so many people were saying, including experts on TV, were going there, I was like, hey, let's not go there, because I just don't see that there's any reason to do so. So anyway, I did that. And so today I'll have my whole lineup of other things I'm going to talk about. But thanks to my great patrons, I got two messages that I had to look into. One was on Delphi, and this is information coming out by the Daily Mail, which tells us exactly what happened and who done did it. And it's interesting, but it's concerning. I'm going to talk about that second. Then somebody contacted me, actually more than one of you, about that said, you got to go over to Ken Main's channel, because I know you like Ken Main's, and I do, because he's got this guy on there, and my gosh, there's so much insight. You got to listen to this conversation. And so let me show you what this conversation was about. So Ken Main's has this guy on his channel. All right. And this is this guy up there in the corner there. He is on death row. He's at San Quentin. He's been there for half a century now. And this is going to be apparently a new weekly thing that Ken Maines is going to be doing, having these discussions with this guy who's giving insight on cold cases. And if you wonder if you've heard this kind of thing before, do you remember Dark Minds? Let me pull up Dark Minds here. Dark Minds was a show that was on Investigation Discovery, and they explored unsolved murders, likely committed by serial killers. And the persons in it was crime author William Phelps and also John Kelly. And what bugged me about that show was that they had this guy named Raven in prison. They also called him 13, I think. And when he spoke, he's a serial killer. And he was supposed to get insight into all the minds of these unsolved crimes. And of course, people flocked to this because, oh, isn't this cool? We got this creepy dude. They never showed him. They just have this guy, this real serial killer. And he understands the mind of other serial killers, so he can analyze. I don't think they ever solved any crimes. So in the seasons of the show. And I was very upset with this show because, first of all, I don't like to give a platform to killers. Secondly, I don't understand this concept that somebody who is a killer is necessarily a better profiler than real profilers and a better detective than real detectives. Because usually when you're talking about a killer, you're talking about a psychopath. And you're talking about a psychopath who manipulates, who is a pathological liar, who is very glib, is very good at getting you to believe what he says and dancing around in such a way that you think, wow, that's quite insightful. So that very much upset me, that show. So now we have this show that Ken Maines is having this guy on the show to try to understand in this particular week the Idaho College murders. And it very much upset me because it's giving a platform to a killer. And of course, there's this concept of, redemption from death row, that this guy is redeeming himself by helping others, by helping solve cold cases because he hangs on death row with, I think he plays cards with Scott Peterson, and he meets other bad guys, that somehow he has this great insight into killers and can profile crimes, which I think is absolute nonsense. And so he's brought on as this guy who is a different guy than the day he came to the prison. All right. So he's redeeming himself. He's really, truly trying to help. He's not, and it's being presented as not being a psychopath. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, Ken, you have a psychopath in your show. And I've looked at the traits and he's got them all. He has got them all. And I don't understand why he's there. Yes, of course, it's interesting. He's good at being interesting. But the things he has claimed on the show for the Idaho case, I don't see any validity for what he says. He doesn't back up anything he says. He just says it. He says as a guy who committed the crime and is 5'11". How the hell would you know that? Sorry, that's ridiculous. Couldn't be 5'10". How about 5'8"? How about 6'2"? Where do you come up with this nonsense? There's no proof of his height. And then he says the guy doesn't live around there. The guy lives 40 to 50 miles away. Where would you get that from? Is there any evidence? No. So he's just throwing this stuff out there and sounding very confident. And it's misleading to anybody listening because he is not actually profiling the crime. He is saying stuff, and he doesn't even back up the stuff he says. Now, if there were at least some rationale, you could say, okay, at least that's where he's getting his thoughts from. But there is no rationale. He's throwing a whole lot of garbage out there. And I find that, right, a little upsetting. And okay, so now you're going to say, how do you know the guy's a psychopath? All right. Let me go through who this guy is, because he knows how to play people. He really, really does. Let me show you some of the things he's got going. So Ken says he's going to do this weekly thing with him, solving cold cases, because both of them are interested in solving cold cases. I doubt that guy gives a crap about solving cold cases. He doesn't have enough empathy for other human beings to care. Ken, I believe you do. But I don't believe bringing this guy into the mix is going to do anything. But he already did that. He's got this thing called Death Row Diaries. It's the only podcast hosted live from death row. William A. Noguera has been on San Quentin prison's notorious death row for over 30 years. During that time, he has seen things that few have seen or should see. Matt Ralston co-hosts the show. Matt is not in prison, though some people think he should be. Ha ha ha! Oh my gosh, there's a few, it's a couple dozen, if not more, cases that they've already gone through. So this guy's already done this. Why? Because he gets attention. I don't even know why this guy's allowed to reach out to the public at all from death row. That offends me right there. I think once you have committed a crime like that, all contact with the public should go down. You should have only contact with a lawyer and a priest. None other than that, I don't care. You should not be. I get letters. I get letters from serial killers. Oh, yes, I do. And you know what I do with them? I file them and I never respond because they don't deserve a response. They certainly don't. I don't really like to see them on TV. I understand sometimes when, the FBI has gone to interviews so they can gather up information for future research, understanding. I get it, even though they're pathological liars and you can't necessarily trust what they say. I can understand going in there and doing research work. I do not like it when they're given a platform for their own purposes. And this is what I think is happening here. So this guy's already had this platform, and it gets worse. He's written a book, Escape Artist, Memoir of a Visionary. It didn't do real well, mind you. It was published 5 years ago, and he's only got 14 ratings on the book. And my favorite comment on this book is this. Whoops, sorry. I went to high school with this guy. So guilty. I don't think anything in this book is true. Why? Because he's a pathological liar. And I'm going to show you how this really plays out. Now look at what the this is the description of the author on the book. Now, I want to tell you where that description comes from. Why? It comes from Bill himself. It doesn't come from the publisher. I'm not even sure if the publisher is a real publisher. But anyway, but this I'm pretty sure he wrote himself. Here it is. About the author. As an award-winning artist, and let me show you some of his pictures. Okay, personally, I think they suck, but okay, I can. Everybody has different opinions of art. Okay, as an award-winning artist, author, and speaker. Now, mind you, this guy's on death row. William A. Noguera has gained international attention and received accolades for his photographic, hyper-realistic link compositions, profound mixed media paintings, hybridized abstract expressionism, and neo-constructivist wall sculptures, exhibiting in Paris, New York, and San Francisco. Noguera has been the subject of over 35 articles in such publications as Forbes, the New York Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, and Boom, a Journal of California. Besides being an artist and a lecturer, Noguera is a former Hapkido middleweight champion. Woof, woof. Man, is that guy something. Talk about grandiose. Oh, let me throw that up for you before you forget. What is a psychopath? What are the traits of a psychopath? First one, this is from Hare's psychopathic checklist. First, glibness and superficial charm. He is very glib and he's got that charm. He really does. That's why people listen to him and fall for his crap. 3, egocentricity, grandiose sense of self-worth. Do you see how he is saying he's the best of everything? He's the best of writing and art and Hapkido. He's just so fantastic, Oh, Lord. Proneness to boredom, low frustration tolerance. Well, I'd say he's very, very busy keeping busy. He probably is bored in prison. I can't blame him there. Okay, but he has to get attention. He's an attention whore. He has to get attention from everybody. He's not concerned about doing the right thing for the family of the victim or doing the right thing for murdered women. Now, supposedly he can't keep his earnings, so he's given them to charitable things. But I don't see him talking about the horrendous crime he committed and what he should do about it. Oh, I'll get to the horrendous crime he committed that he claims he didn't actually commit that quite a horrendous crime. He lies about that. All right. And therefore, we'll see coming up conning and lack of sincerity. And I see that all over the place with this guy. Lack of remorse or guilt. I absolutely believe he doesn't have any remorse or guilt. And interestingly, Ken actually asked him, do you take responsibility for your crime? And he goes, absolutely. But then he says the crime was, let's see. Oh, let me show you what he says about that. Hold on a second. Let me find where it is. Okay, that was that one. We did that one. Oh, let me show you this. Oh, this before I go into his crime. Let me show you this. This is his own website. Now you're in San Quentin. I don't know why you get to have a website, except of course somebody else puts this up for him. Oh, and it's got all these, my art, my CV. He's got a CV in prison, contact, podcast, books. This dude's like, he's the greatest guy. All right. So anyway, let me see if I can find this one thing he said about, oh, this is an interesting one. Some guy asked on Ken's site, how can you become a professional fighter if you are a murderer at 18? You have to be 18 to get a license to fight professionally. This is true. So he says he's a Hapkido middleweight champion or whatever. You see, he did do these things, but that wasn't professional, and he wasn't old enough, and we don't know he was a middleweight champion of what. The Hapkido school down the street, you can have a middleweight championship at the Hapkido school or the local tournament. I used to do martial arts. I've done the same thing. That doesn't make you a big champion like it's claimed there. And wait till you see how he denies actually how good he is. So later on after actual crime is committed, he actually tries to say he's not that good. And if he's not that good, how do you become this big, huge champion? One wonders. All right. So let me see what else I have here before I go into, question for Bill. He says if other inmates would find how articulate he is, they would respect him less. But it seems like he's all over the internet. He co-hosts podcasts. He's wrote books. He does art. He talks to you. They obviously see him researching, writing, talking a lot on the phone. So suddenly he's worried about people. Oh, they might find out about me. Again, garbage. This is interesting, but this guy's a narcissist and a psychopath. Let me tell you, I agree with Maine. This is useful for learning, but it should be done in private with him and this criminal, not giving him a platform on TV. All right. Bill may be genuine. No, he's not. Or a master manipulator to promote himself. Yes, he is. All right. So now let me go to what his crime was. This guy says that, now let me read this one to you. Okay, let me find it. He says, I made a horrible mistake, one I regret, and think about daily since that night so many years ago when I lost control. He claims he lost control during an argument. Who was killed? His girlfriend's mother. He lost control during an argument. Okay, I'm sorry, but Ken, if this is what the guy's telling you, he is lying. He didn't lose control during an argument. That's an absolute 100% lie. So he's still lying. And years later, he's still not telling the truth because in court, the truth came out. He committed a premeditated murder for money. All right. Let me read you actually what he did. All right. So, I have a problem with people. I have a problem with people who are psychopaths and liars. I really do. That just gets my goat. It really does. And I have to speak up on that because I find it very, very offensive that a psychopath is able to manipulate people. All right. This is from a website. It's from case law, findlaw.com, People versus Noguera. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right. Noguera. Okay, Noguera. This is the Supreme Court of California. All right, so let's hear what happened. So on April 23rd, 1983, about between 11:30 at night and the following 4:30 the following morning, Jovita, it's Jovita, so I'm thinking it's Jovita Navarro, was murdered in her bedroom in her La Habra bungalow. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing any of this right. Is it La Habra? Police found Jovita's body after being summoned by a 911 call from Mindy Jackson, her next door neighbor. And they came there, they interviewed her daughter, Dominique, who was 16 years old. Dominique told them she had returned from a date with her then 18-year-old boyfriend. And this would be this guy. Around 2 a.m, and after chatting briefly with the mother, who was reading in bed and removing her makeup, Dominique had gone to bed and to sleep. She was awakened a few hours later, she said, by muffled noises coming from her mother's adjacent bedroom. Her mother was asleep. It was the middle of the night. This is not when an argument was happening. Mom was asleep. All right. After a few minutes, she claimed she heard her mother scream, "Get out, mi hija," daughter. Get out, mi hija. Frightened and unsure what was afoot in the darkened house, Dominique told Mindy Jackson that she sat at the end of her bed for about 5 to 15 minutes before running blindly down the hall and out the back door. As she ran, she heard a thumping sound coming from her mother's bedroom, followed by what sounded like footsteps of someone close behind her. Okay, so she bangs on the door. They call 911, supposedly, at that moment in time. All right. Would you like to hear what happened to her? Jovita. Okay, remember this guy who is now going to be partnering of Ken Maines, who has remorse for the crime, he says, is just an argument that got out of control. All right. What happened? Her body was found lying across the bed, her feet touching the floor. Her nightgown had been pulled up around her neck, and a pair of blue woman's underpants was wadded between her thighs. The contents of the bedroom were in disorder. Bedding and blankets had been pulled down from the bed and thrown haphazardly on the floor. A jewelry box normally resting on the dresser was found upended on the hall floor, and its contents of costume jewelry scattered along the hallway. Jovita had been badly beaten, mainly on the face and head. She had suffered extensive facial injuries, including dental and eye damage from at least 18 blows to the face and head. Her skull had multiple depressed fractures, and her scalp had been loosened and torn by the force of the beating. Her nose almost touched her left cheek, and defensive wounds were evident on her arms and hands. On her left thigh, examiners found oval-shaped wounds. Blood was splattered on the walls, furniture, and ceiling of the bedroom. The pathologist who examined the body testified that the proximate cause of Jovita Navarro's death was not the beating, but asphyxiation, induced by pressing a rounded object against her throat with such force that her larynx was crushed, choking off her airway. Extensive cyanosis or bluing of her lips and pinpoint hemorrhaging beneath her eyelids confirmed that Jovita had, in effect, been strangled. Had she not died from lack of oxygen, the pathologist concluded, the severity of the beating would have resulted in her death. All right. In the bedroom in La Habra, police investigators found a tonfa. Let me show you what a tonfa is. Okay, this is a tonfa. All right. This is a martial arts weapon fashioned from red oak and resembling a police baton. It lay shattered in 2 pieces, testimony to the savagery of the beating. In the neighboring yard, police recovered a piece of wood shaped like a broom handle with traces of blood on it. In another yard, they found blood-stained tan leather glove. Bloodstains were also found on a cinder block wall adjoining a nearby lot. The bloodstains on the tonfa, the wooden dowel, and the glove were the same type as Jovita's. An analysis of fibers removed from the brick wall and the glove were consistent with those found in her bedroom. She was beaten to death with the thing called a tonfa. You know who uses a tonfa? That guy. See that? He claims he didn't ever use one of those things. It's a martial arts weapon. What are the chances that some other guy, not this guy, not Bill, had a weapon, a martial arts weapon that he would have used in martial arts? Now, mind you, people did see him with such a weapon, but okay. All right. They determined that the crime scene was staged, that she was not actually raped and she was not actually robbed, because what actually happened was his girlfriend wanted her mother dead and was seeking out a guy to get rid of her mom. And there were 3 of them who got together to discuss how they could kill her to get the insurance money. And also he didn't like her mom. And mom was like onto the fact that the guy was a creepy psychopath and wanted him away from her daughter. So what we have heard before is a daughter will get her boyfriend to kill her mother, which is exactly what happened. All right. So that's what he got convicted of. All right. So This was not an argument that got out of hand. This is a man who was let into the house in the wee hours of the morning to beat a woman to death and strangle her. So, Bill, did you tell that to Ken Maines? Ken, did you ask him about the truth about this crime? Or did he just going, it was just this argument that got out of control. I feel bad about it. Yeah, you feel bad about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure you do. Okay, it gets worse. Let me tell you, it gets worse. So how does it get worse, you say? Oh, first of all, remember, he calls it a mistake. It is not a mistake when you premeditatedly plan to kill somebody for their money, okay? That's not a mistake. It's not anger that got out of control. You're just a flaming 100% psychopath, and psychopaths don't change. You're lying then, you're lying now. All right, now this gets even more interesting. All right, let's see what happened in the see if I can find this. What the family said, which I think is kind of interesting. Hold on a second. Got to find what his sister said. This was hold on a second. Where'd it go? Hold on a second. Okay. Let's see. Oh. Let's hold on a second. Oh, that Dominique and his sister also said that he'd been stabbed in the leg a year before the murder, so he couldn't really do much fighting. That's what the claim is, okay? And that he really didn't have a black belt. How did you win a big championship if you didn't even have a black belt? What'd you have? A green belt, blue belt, brown belt, but not a black belt. Mm-hmm. And so during the defense trial, they played down his ability to do any martial arts. And now he's like the martial arts champion. Okay. Let me read some more things from this guy, because it just, when you talk about grandiose thinking and what kind of guy this guy is. Whew. Okay, let me find his website, because his website is fascinating. Okay, hold on a second. Website, where are you? So it's always interesting when a person writes their own stuff. You can really see what they're about when this is from their own words and not from somebody else's words. Hold on a second. What did I do with it? Hold on 1 second. Something went missing again. Okay, wait a minute. Let me find his website. I gotta put this back in. I think I must have hit some button and it went flying out. Website. Okay, let's go to his website. All right, so he has the website. But I did put a picture up, but I want to read to you from the website because it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. All right, so what does he say? Artist statement. He's got an artist statement. All right. Oh, wait a minute. I want to go back to his. Wait a minute. His biography is what I want. His early years. Okay. Now wait till you hear some of this. His early years. William Noguera was born in Los Angeles, California, to immigrant Colombian parents. His education in the martial arts, visual arts, and behavioral sciences began at 3 years old. Wait. That's why he's a good profiler. He started at 3 years old. I waited till I was in my 30s, but this guy had me. He was doing it at 3. Okay. Began at 3 years old under his father's stern and watchful eye. A hunter, martial artist, visual artist, and machinist who would become William's first subject. Okay, so that's his dad. And a behavioral model into the world of reading human habits, tendencies, and psychological makeup as a means to anticipate violence. Oh, so you see, Daddy was his like his mentor for criminal profiling. In 1972, at age 8, William won his first of many martial arts titles. And although his home life, when looked at from the outside, depicted a normal childhood, nothing could be further from the truth. Often bullied, beat up, and the subject of racial discrimination by the other minorities, because it's always somebody else's fault. I can ask him that. Have you recognized this not other people's fault? He's like, yeah, okay. But here it is. It's everybody else's fault. The worst abuse came from within his home, where his mother and father waged a war against each other, often abusing him and his sister both emotionally and physically. During these developmental years, here he goes. He's getting his education again. William honed his observational skills to read and avoid conflict. What? He's avoiding conflict. What about that argument that got out of control? Oh, that conflict. That isn't even true. But hey, okay. Honed his observational skills to read and avoid conflict with predatory gangs in his neighborhood, and began to outline a system to read human behavioral clues and habits. Yes, because when you're a kid, you really want to develop a system of proper criminal profiling. Yes, you do. Teen years, 1979, under the guidance of his father, whom he both feared and worshipped, William, at age 16, won the Hapkido middleweight and overall championship. What, of his school? No, he didn't have a black belt. Remember, no black belt. How was he, becoming the youngest to do so? Again, grandiose thinking. It's like he's better than anybody else. You see, better than anybody else. But within weeks, his parents were divorced and William rebelled. He entered the underground fighting world, which would later become today's MMA. Maybe he helped develop the MMA. I think that's what he did. He went undefeated. Of course he did, because that guy's so great. But the use of anabolic steroids were becoming obvious, often moody, with a hair-trigger temper. You see, because now his behavior is being controlled by steroids, not by his own brain, right? He experienced memory blackouts. That's handy when you don't remember the crimes you commit. He referred to as the red zone because his vision would turn red and he had no memory of his actions. By age 17, this is my favorite part, William was on a path that led him into the criminal underworld of high-end car theft. High-end car theft. Not just that you're a shitbird who just breaks into people's cars and takes them down for a joyride. Oh no, high-end car theft, were his observational skills to pinpoint. I mean, my God almighty, what grandiose thinking. His observational skills to pinpoint habits. You see, if what he learned from his dad to be a criminal profiler helped him in his criminal life, pinpoint habits, routines, and anticipate the behavior of those he studied to give him an extremely high success rate and the attention of organized crime figures. Oh my God, now, oh my God, I don't know, it's the Colombian cartel up there in LA, and they were just like, ooh, this guy, we're going to take him to the top of our cartel. Of course, you're a little loser boy in the neighborhood. All right. However, then the unfortunate happened. 1983, during an argument that turned deadly. There's the argument. It's on his website. That's what he claims. The guy is a pathological, lying piece of garbage. No one should have anything to do with this guy. Nothing. Because he will manipulate and mislead anyone who is in his eyesight or earsight or whatever you want to call it, or on the web. Just makes me super angry. During an argument that turned deadly, and there are court records, and he was imprisoned for life because it wasn't an argument that turned deadly. If that were true, he would have been out, maybe 10 years. He was in there because it was a premeditated, brutal homicide for money. That's why he's in there. During an argument that turned deadly, William was arrested, tried, and convicted of murder, then sentenced to death and sent to San Quentin prison, where he was thrown into a rat-infested cell. It was in that dark cell that he accepted responsibility for the actions in the past, present, and future, except that he never actually accepts responsibility for the premeditated murder, does he now? So he's lying in the same sentence. My God. Placing him directly on a new path to rehabilitation by understanding his failures and fearless self-reflection. This guy is so, oh my God, is he grandiose in his thinking. He thinks he is absolutely the cat's meow. He's better than everybody else. And guess what? When you give him a platform to lie and manipulate, you're making him continue to think he's better than everyone else when he isn't. He isn't. Then he earns a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, which makes him, again, a criminal profiler. Oddly enough, I have a master's in criminal justice, and that doesn't satisfy a lot of my haters. I've worked for 20 years in the field. That doesn't satisfy some of my haters. I've worked at police departments, but that doesn't mean they don't lie that I've never worked at the police department. But this guy, this wonderful guy, this killer who lies like a dog and is a psychopath, he's got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice he got online. That makes him brilliant. Oh my God. And then he goes on about that he was recognized by the art world because there are a lot of people pushing anything in prisoner does, especially people on death row, because there's a lot of groups that want to make death row prisoners appeal to people as nice human beings so that we can stop the death penalty. That's the concept behind it. They want the death penalty to end, so they try to present these guys as really nice guys that, okay, they committed a crime, yes, but see, they've redeemed themselves. They do gorgeous art, they do good books, blah, blah, blah. This is who is putting his stuff out on the market. Not like the general art world doesn't give a crap about his crappy art. This is all promoted by an agenda. All right. So it goes on with more and more garbage. And then, let's see, oh my God. Then he's got Mindhunter next to his face. Oh, and that's got the author, that he's an author. And in 2018, he released his memoir, Escape Artist, which I'm sure is a pack of lies. And if it was on Kindle for $2.99, I would have bought it, but I didn't want to pay $16 or whatever it cost to get a copy. And has finished 4 other books. I'm sure they're exciting too. The first, which will be released in 2023, is a true crime portrait of one of the most depraved and vicious serial killers in history. And William uses his expertise on human behavior and serial killers to solve a number of cold case murders. He's solving them. I don't even say I solve cold case murders. I say I have an analysis, and here's my viewpoint on it. This is my way of looking at the evidence. It's up to the police to solve things. I can't solve it. Have I felt I've been right about things? Yes. But this guy automatically solves a whole bunch of cold case murders. And now he's teaming up with Ken Maines. Ken, I do like you. I think you do really good stuff when you talk about your own history with detective work and you use your own analysis methodologies. But my God, if you want a profiler to team up with, you don't have to pick me because I'm not really, this is my channel. I'm happy with it. Find another profiler. Find an retired FBI profiler. Find an independent profiler. Find anybody else but this psychopathic piece of garbage. Don't give him a platform. Okay. I know a lot of people have come and they've absolutely loved that video. I know there are going to be people who are really angry with me for speaking out, but I cannot stand when a complete psychopath, a killer, and who is obviously, to me, not changed one damn bit. When he's out there claiming stuff, he can do these great things, he can't see into the mind of a killer any better than anybody else can. And he has no training at all. So all he's doing is doing guesswork and convincing people because he's a very convincing kind of character. He's got a great voice. He's got a great way of saying things. He does. I'm not saying he doesn't have talent. He has talent, but not in profiling. He has talent in manipulation. That is one reason he should never be in public. That guy should not have a platform. So that's my opinion on that. And I'll go to your comments and then I'll go to Delphi. Okay. That just got to me today. Ooh. Okay. Let me go look at what some of you have to say. Really set me off. I just was shocked. I actually was shocked. I really was. Oh my God. Oh Lord. And, the information about this guy's out on the internet. So it's not like by the time I found out about it, I think I found out about this. Oh, maybe I'm trying to think I'm going to say I went to an art class because I'm learning how to maybe make better pictures than him. I went to an art class, came home, relaxed, and then saw this stuff. So I would say a few hours ago, maybe 5-6 hours ago. This is when I came upon the video and when I started researching him. So it's not like really hard information to find. It's right there on the internet, right there on the internet. All right. So, all right. Yes, this is correct. He killed his girlfriend's mother. Michaela's correct, for $23,000 of insurance money, and to get rid of her because she was annoying to them. That's what he is. He's the Amber of attention whores. Well, he is. And you know, the thing about it is that, you know, if you are a psychopath in prison, you love attention. You're bored. You are bored. That's why these psychopaths, these serial killers, reach out. I mean, that's why I get these letters. They come in every once in a while. I look at the letter and go, oh, goody. This one's coming in from this prison. And it always starts out with this very cheery tone, like, hi, Pat. Like, this guy's my best friend. You know, I'm the blah, blah, blah. One of my most well-known ones is from the Happy Face Killer, which he mentions, Happy Face Killer, because he writes everybody. You know? I didn't think I was special. I just knew he was trying to use me to get attention. And if he can get me to write him and then talk about him and write a book about him, you know, you're in prison. It is kind of boring, you know, it's repetitive every day. Nobody pays attention to you unless you bring the attention to yourself. So a lot of these guys go on, they actually go on prison inmate dating sites. They get women to come to their prison and meet with them. Some of them get conjugal visits after they marry them. They get money from them. And these women are like, oh, he's such a nice guy. Like this guy, he's so nice. No, he's not. He's playing you, you know, and he's getting his one huge ego if I've ever seen one. Oh my God. Just so frustrating. I'm going back up to you. Oh Lord. Super over dramatized, half real BS. Yes, indeed. Because you know what they do is they take BS and then they make it exciting. And when you read his stuff, I mean, I understand the concept of spin, because anybody who's been in the limelight, who's putting out a CV, even if they're not in the limelight, you're just trying to, you know, get a job, you know, you put out your CV, you will use a bit of spin. Spin being you take the truth and just make it really likable, you know, or more exciting or whatever. But then there's this line, there's spin, and then there's just being a liar. That's two different things. This guy spins really, but to such a high level. And then he lies as well. So it's a mixture of the two. But he is a good spinner. There's no question about it, because that's massive manipulation. But I've never seen a CV so hyped up as his. So, and that's very, very much a trait of psychopathy. Let me see what else you have to say here. Oh, Lord. Let's see. Adini says, I watched this show. In my opinion, this guy is using Ken as a platform for his book and podcast. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because he's, you know, in this sense, I can't blame good old Bill, because as a psychopath and a prisoner, why wouldn't you? If you can get Ken Maines, who a lot of people really like, including myself, to let you have that platform and to start a weekly show with you, you darn well won. You absolutely won. Yeah. Sarah says, oh my God, he wrote that himself. Clearly. Absolutely. By the way, I haven't looked up who that book was published by. He doesn't have very many reviews, so I'm going to say it's self-published or with a self-publishing company, because there's lots of them with different names, and sometimes you just name your own company. And I'm not against self-publishing. I am not. I have one book that's self-published, and that's Only the Truth. That's my fiction story, and that's done extraordinarily well. And I have 444 reviews on that. So, you know, self-publishing doesn't mean the book sucks. But I'm going to say his book sucks. But even when you're published by a real publisher, a lot of times they ask you to write what you want on the back of the book, and you do so. So they will accept that unless unless red flags go up and they go, oh, wait a minute here. But a lot of times they really don't care too much. So I do believe he wrote the entire thing himself. Absolutely. Unquestionable. And he approved of it. So even if somebody else helped you write it, or somebody else wrote it for you, or somebody else wrote it without your input, you always, as an author, you have the right to refuse every aspect. So you look at your book and you can say, I won't accept those edits in the book. You can say, I won't accept the cover, although sometimes I push into that one. I won't accept what you said about me, the author, and you put that in. I won't accept that. You have to approve everything before it goes to publication. So this guy, I'm pretty sure if the tone is totally him, it's so grandiose, I'm sure he wrote it himself. But even if he didn't, he approved it. So, oh, this is so true, Kelly. Man, you would just think he's living on the outside in a mansion. Doesn't it sound that way? You would not even think this guy's on death row at San Quentin. My God, he sounds like this. I mean, that guy sounds like he has a way better life than me. I don't have the publicity he's got. I don't have people raving about my artwork and every book I ever did. And, I don't have newspaper articles written about me and then praising me to the hilt. And I'm so busy with other things. My God, yeah, it sounds like he's in a mansion. I mean, it's amazing that he can make his prison life a mansion life. Give him credit on that. And if he were just keeping that to himself, I'd be okay with it. But he is just basically manipulating people. Let me see what else you have to say here. Yes, he did. He strangled her. Absolutely 100% strangled her. A nice bloke to take home and meet mom. Just hide all the cords. Cut all the cords. Well, he was asked to kill the mother by the daughter. This is not an unusual situation where the couple, because mommy disapproves of the creepy boyfriend you have, because she knows he's a psychopath. He doesn't want you with him. And then that girl has probably got issues too. So she's like, honey, if you want to stay with me, you got to kill mommy. Yeah. Sarah says, psychopaths don't like it when you call out their lies. Absolutely not. Their lives are built around them. 100%. 100%. I have a black belt in spaghetti. No, I mean, I'm not saying he can't fight. He may have been on his way to a black belt. He could have maybe become a champion. Maybe this problem was that he's a scumbag. I don't know how many crimes. They didn't say he had any kind of criminal history, but of course he was stealing cars and was being looked at by the top cartels, right? Either he was a little loser boy who just killed the mother for his girlfriend, or he's got a lot of criminal behavior prior to this that they just didn't catch him for, and that happens. Also, I'm not sure what the juvenile issue is, the keeping secret of his juvenile past, but yeah, he's but he might have been a good fighter. I don't know. I mean, because, maybe he was actually pretty talented in fighting, but he wasn't a professional fighter and he didn't win any kind of professional, top championship. That's just nonsense. Oh my God. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure about that, so I'm going to be careful what I put up here on the screen. To be fair to Ken, I don't think he's under any illusions about what the guy did. Just saying, well, then you shouldn't have him there. I mean, I don't know. Other people think differently than myself. Obviously, there are people who've teamed up with killers before for this. Same with Dark Mind, same thing. I'm just highly opposed to it. Maybe I'm on the outside on this. Maybe I'm just one of those people that just finds. I don't like liars. I have a really huge problem with liars. And because I know liars are manipulators, and I know liars, I just can't. I can't deal with lying. That's why when people say, "Well, Pat Brown's a fraud and she's a liar," I'm like, I'll guarantee you one thing: you cannot like me. You can say I'm unprofessional. Somebody just said you make too many expressions, and that's not professional. Okay, whatever. That's your opinion. You cannot like me, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not a fraud, and I'm not a liar because I've always put the truth out there, exactly who I am, how I got where I am. That's never been hidden. It has never been hidden. So I say, it's you can not think my profiling is good. You can think I suck, and that's okay. But don't call me a liar, because that I'm not. And I've never lied about my background or my credentials or anything. Never lied about that. So I don't like liars. I've had this issue all my life. I've always told my kids, my grandkids, same thing. I'm like, look, here's the problem. Once you lie, nobody trusts you ever again. Because if you're willing to lie, that means you take away my ability to make choices. And I don't think that's right. I think every other person has a right to make a choice. So if I lie about things, then you think I'm something I'm not, or you think I believe something I don't. And then you keep being friends with me, or you keep doing things with me for reasons that you shouldn't be, and especially in relationships and things like that. So I don't like lying. And I say, I raise my kids, I'm like, do not lie. Nothing else. Do not lie, because then from that moment on, I'm going to be saying everything you say, I don't trust. And once you set that up, you ruin your reputation. And so I don't lie. So I have a real thing about lying. Just really do. That's just one of my really pet peeves. Super pet peeves. He's just a misunderstood killer looking to be accepted and loved. And that's what he wants you to think. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Just one little mistake. You hate it when that happens. My little mistake might be, I'm trying to think. I bought up too many pieces of pizza. Your little mistake is bludgeoning a woman to death and strangling her. That's not a mistake. That fact, you're a psychopath. And psychopaths don't change. And Ken should know that psychopaths never change. And it's funny because good old Bill here, he even says, get this one. He says, which I disagree with him again. He says serial killers are born that way. Then there's nothing in the environment that can have any effect on them, that they're like programmed to kill. They're born that way. Okay, then, Bill, what does that make you? Aren't you a psychopath? Oh, yes, you are. I guess you're born that way, and nothing can stop you, which I accept. I accept you are exactly the way you are. I expect you to be a liar. I expect you to be a manipulator. I expect you to do everything. I just don't expect people to give you a platform for it. That's where I run into. All right. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to control myself here, but I'm not doing a good job. My God. While I'm at it, just to point this out, because there are a lot of people. I've had some commentary on my previous video, which I'll link below, which is where I said that I didn't see the Idaho murders as being serial homicides, serial killers. I showed Ted Bundy on one side, and I showed Danny Rolling on the other. I said these guys are serial killers, and this crime is not represented by these two guys. So I wish people would stop saying it's like Ted Bundy, it's like Danny Rolling. And then so quite a few people have come and said this, and let me try to clear this up. How do you know it's not a serial killer? Because serial killers don't always commit sexual assaults in their crimes. This is true. However, this is very few and far between. I can think of David Berkowitz, who was basically an incel. He was a serial killer incel, or an incel serial killer. He shot people in their vehicles. Now, people will say that's really still a sexual assault, because that's where he gets his sexual kicks. Can you prove that? I mean, that's the way you get power and control. That's the way you get back at society. But whether you literally get off by doing that is another matter, which I think it's a stretch to say, I know this is sexual in nature. Freud would say that, but Freud said all kinds of stuff that was ridiculous. So, there are people who find many things sexually exciting. And so I can't say a killer wouldn't find that sexually exciting, but there's no proof that he does, other than power and control. Now, all serial crimes, All serial homicides, sexual homicides, are about power and control and not sex. This is where people are confused. They use sex as a tool of humiliation and torture for the person they're attacking. And while they're doing it, they have a good time because they like sex. Okay, but it's not, they're not committing the crime for sex. And a lot of these guys go home and have sex with their wives. You know, it's not that they don't have a girlfriend. It's not that a lot of these guys can't go to a bar and pick up a girl and get sex, or pay a prostitute and get sex. They're not having sex because they can't get it elsewhere. They're using sex as a weapon in the crime, but having a good time with the weapon as well. Okay, that's the general, I'd say 98% of all serial killers use sex in their crimes because of those two things. It gives them power and control. It's a tool for humiliation and torture, and they like it. Okay? So there's this little teeny group like David Berkowitz, son of Sam, who don't use sex in their serial homicides. I believe also, and people have asked me to do this crime, it's the Colonial Parkway killings. Some guy was just like David Berkowitz, was pulling cars over and killing people. And as far as I know, there were sexual assaults in those either. Occasionally you run into that. But most of the time when you see somebody go in and kill a whole bunch of people and don't commit sexual assaults, it's not a serial killer. It's usually a mass murderer or a targeted crime, rage crime, like an incel going in and just rage crime, killing people that he piss him off. It's not a serial homicide. Now, some people have pointed out Richard Speck, with killing off the nurses, but that guy was a rapist. You know, he was a sexual, and he did actually rape one of the girls that he killed. So again, rape was included in his crimes. Did he kind of go nutso on that one location? Yes, but he had committed so many crimes. That guy was like a mass criminal of all sorts, kind of like a Danny Rowling. And at that moment in time, he decided to go in and do that. But this crime, as far as we know, somebody went in, committed the crime, and went out with no sexual assault. To me, that reeks of either an incel mass murder or a person targeting someone that they were angry with and taking out collateral damage. One of those two things. Now, maybe I'm going to be wrong, because as I point out, criminal profiling is a tool for law enforcement that this is ideas they can have for continuing their investigation. These are things they themselves do. And even detectives or criminal profilers aren't always, you know, when you look at what you got, you go a certain direction and you find out, oh, that's not right. And you find out there's more evidence comes in, you go, oh, that changes things. And then you change direction. Could I be wrong that this is actually a serial killer? Possibly. Do I believe I'm going to be wrong? I think the evidence just points away from that. I absolutely do. And I think continuing to say this crime matches Ted Bundy and Danny Rowling is completely off the charts. Just not even. It doesn't make sense to compare them at this point. If something comes up later on that we find something different, fine. But at this point, that's why I made that video. It's like I heard this all over the internet. Oh my God, this is just like Ted Bundy. It's just like Danny Rowling. No, it's not. You know, so I want people to understand how things work. Not that I'm right, but I want people to understand things, you know, because if you're outside of criminal investigations and profiling, you see stuff on TV, you hear stuff here and there, and you don't know, you know, how does this really work? And this is an educational channel. I want you to understand how things really work. So that's my entirely long diatribe on this whole thing today. And now I'm going to have to go over to the police have backtracked on the targeting thing. I don't know. I don't know that they have, or they just don't know anything. The problem is when you can't figure out who it is, and this is not the police's fault, mind you. So let's say you go in there, you got 4 people who've been stabbed to death. You don't have a DNA to match anybody. Now you got this white car rolling around that they're looking for, because now they're hoping, God, I hope this is the guy. So somebody raced by some cameras approximately that time. Could it have been the killer? Sure. Could it have been somebody else? Sure. They don't actually know it has anything to do with the crime, but gosh, they're hoping. They're hoping. My God, please. Oh, okay. Where does Tommy Lynn Sells fall? Tommy Lynn Sells is, I think he is a serial killer, but by the way, I do not. If you saw my video on, shoot, now I got to remember my own video on the woman who was accused of killing her son, and then it was claimed that no, she didn't kill her son. That Tommy Lynn Sells did. I did a video on that. Somebody come up with the name of the name of my show. Let me know. He didn't commit that crime. I absolutely do not believe he committed that crime. And there are what I call natural born killer types who are kind of like all over the flipping map. They really are. They just do all kinds of weird stuff. And then, it's sometimes it's hard to designate with those people because they just like to do everything. But yeah, just my point is not to get overexcited and say this is absolutely what something is. And when you don't have anything that actually supports that, that's what I'm trying to make it clear. I just don't know that that's true. That they, I don't know where they are in their investigation. They could be way ahead of everything. Or they could be way behind everything and just not know. If you don't have evidence, you don't have evidence, and you can't. The families are going berserk on you. The public's going berserk on you, and the guys that are who are involved in this, the detectives. I don't know. You don't know how much training, which is almost none, they have on these kind of crimes. I mean, they're shocked. They're shocked too. This didn't happen in their town, and now they've got this horrific crime, and they don't know what to do with it. They're doing their best, but it's off the charts. So they're gonna try everything, try to think everything, and then the press keeps getting involved, and then Kaylee's father and mom keep opening their mouths and saying things, and I know they're just trying to, inspire more tips and push the police to solve the crime. But the police like, oh my God, now what do we say? Oh, what a mess. So anyway, let me talk to you about Delphi, because again, I didn't even want to go there with this crime, but this came out. Somebody pointed this out to me, and I thought, okay, I got to comment on this. All right, this came out on the the Daily Mail. Exclusive: murdered Delphi teens were intended victims of botched child sex kidnap plot, cops believe, as investigators dig up dead cat to match hairs found on girls to alleged killer's pet. Further on, it says Richard Allen was allegedly, this is one interesting word here, part of a child sex ring that planned to kidnap and rape Liberty German, 14, and Abigail Williams, 13, in 2017. Allen has ties to pedophile Keegan Kline. I do not know what ties he actually has. They don't, so this is going to be important. Who was previously named as a suspect. Both have also been linked to Ron Logan. The girls were found on his property. That's not linked to Ron Logan. The girls were linked to Ron Logan's property. That doesn't mean they were linked to Ron Logan. I'll get into that in a bit. Source says police dug up Allen's cat to match hairs found on the girl's body. I don't know who that source is. It always annoys me. I always think if you can't name your source, shut the hell up. Not that your source is wrong, but if you can't name your source, there's a problem there. First of all, the police shouldn't be leaking crap to the public. Neither should anybody else. And the judge just said, she said, I will not accept leaks. And here we have all this crap in the Daily Mail. Now, the Daily Mail, I will just say, does pretty good crime news. So do I believe what they have to say, or do I think that this time somebody's kind of like overdoing it? Let me read you what the actual article says, tell you what I think along the way. All right, let me find it. It is, a second. Oh, before I go there, I just got to mention this because I've had this question on. Oh, this has been driving me nuts. I'm sorry. Go back to Idaho for a second. What about the picarism? You don't know what picarism is, lady? You just don't know anything about it. You're not a real profiler. All right. Picarism. What is picarism? Picarism is when somebody takes a knife or an ice pick and goes over and over and over again. It says that they studied this and they believe that an excessive number of stab wounds, the targeting of a sexual area, and a variation in wound size and depth were found to be evidence of picarism. Although there was opportunity to commit a sexual assault on the victims, the preference was to penetrate them with a knife. So in other words, instead of using a male part, they're using this as the male part. First of all, folks, I have no evidence of picarism in the Idaho case at all. I don't know who's saying there is picarism. Just because somebody's been stabbed a few times doesn't mean picarism. It just means they tried to kill them. So that's not picarism. Secondly, sometimes stabbing many, many times doesn't mean picarism, doesn't mean a sexual thing either. I've seen a brother kill another brother by stabbing him 50 times, and that was not sexual. He just wanted that kid dead. Sometimes excessive amount of stabbing is anger and not anything to do with any kind of sexual thing. Here we have Freud rolling in again. So because it's a pointed object, it must represent a penis. Oh, not always, not always. If you dream about a bed, it doesn't mean you're dreaming about sex. If you're dreaming about a tunnel, it doesn't mean you're dreaming about sex. I don't know who comes up with this stuff. Sometimes it's just a tunnel is a tunnel, and a bed is a bed, and a knife is a knife. Certain times it could be more, but stop going there when you don't need to go there. All right, so let me go back now. Sorry, a little segue there to something. Okay, let me find where to go. Okay, hold on a second. I got so many things open now. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. I want to clear this up because, again, I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to educate. I'm trying to have people understand where they should go with things and where they shouldn't, and where they should just be calm and wait. All right. So what about this? Hold on a second. The Daily Mail is trying to get me to pay them. All right. So murdered Delphi teenagers Liberty German and Abigail Williams were victims of a botched kidnapping plot hatched by members of a local pedophile ring. All right. Let me start with that right there. We do not have proof of that, so they shouldn't say that. We don't even know there is a pedophile ring. And by the way, a pedophile is very young, much younger children, not the ages of Abigail and Libby. Abby and Libby were teens. That's not pedophilia. Okay. So right there, that's completely wrong. And we also don't know this actual pedophile ring. We know there's some creepy dude named Keegan Klein who likes to get pictures of, talk to girls about sex and get pictures of their body parts or whatever he wants to get from them. But that's not proof of a sex ring. Okay. So is there really one, or are they just making this stuff up? All right. And what botched kidnapping plot? Not just that they were going to be killed in the woods, but a botched kidnapping plot. Let's listen to more of this. Just one of the host of disturbing new details and allegations. What are allegations? Claims that are not proven. That can be exclusively revealed by dailymail.com. Of course, you can reveal anything if you don't think you can get sued enough. Including gruesome details about how the girls died and that police dug up the prime suspect's dead cat in an effort to match hairs found on their body. Now, the dead cat thing I actually think is somewhat reasonable, because one of the possibilities is that if there were actually cat hairs on the girl's body and the dead cat hairs matched the cat hairs on the girl's bodies, that's one more piece of actual physical evidence that could put Richard Allen away when the trial comes. The revelations come just 2 weeks after the authorities released a redacted version of the probable cause affidavit. All right. All right. DailyMail.com has learned, because they're very, very nosy. Shortly after his arrest, one of Allen's neighbors recalled seeing police digging in his yard. Now, Daily Mail has been told, not confirmed, been told that they were digging up the family's dead cat, whose hair proved a match for the samples found on one of the victims. Here we have a being told, which means a source which they do not identify. So do we believe it? It's a possibility that this is true, but it's also a possibility that somebody is doing some overreach here. All right. Carroll County Prosecutor Nicholas McLeland has openly stated that he believes Allen is not the only actor involved in this. Yes, he does. Because he believes it doesn't make it true. It makes it a possibility. All right. And while Allen has not been charged with kidnapping, that's kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting, because actually when you control somebody with a gun and tell them down the hill, you're kidnapping. That is kind of weird, isn't it? Prosecutors have alleged he attempted it. No, he didn't attempt it. He did it. It's not an attempt. He accomplished it. Now, sources close to the investigation have claimed that Allen was acting with at least 2 other men and was involved in a child sex ring. These are claims. Last month, Daily Mail revealed that pedophile, which he is not, Kevin Klein, 28 of Peru, Indiana. Again, pedophile is not the same thing as a guy who likes teens, who is currently awaiting trial on a slew of child pornography charges. Yes, that's true, because anybody under 18 is considered a child, right? That doesn't mean you're a pedophile. It just means you like teens. Was cooperating with state police and prosecutors in a bid to reduce his own charges. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. How was he trying to reduce his charges? All right. Sources told DailyMail.com, the girls met Keegan Klein online, and he arranged to meet him that day but didn't go. Do we absolutely know that? Instead, he set them up to be kidnapped for the porn ring. Really? Really? Okay. I'm not buying that one. Okay. During one of several police interviews reviewed by DailyMail.com, Klein admitted to soliciting underage girls, that's true, for nude photos by catfishing them, that's true, posing as a teenage girl, Emily Ann, I did not know that actually, or a hunky actor model, Anthony Schatz. So yes, he was catfishing for nude photos. Yes, he's an incel. He's a big fat incel sitting behind his computer. All right. It was at Schatz that he communicated with German. Chillingly, Schatz was one of the last people to communicate with the girls before they took their fateful walk. Okay, he communicated with them. Police interrogating Klein told him they did not believe he committed the murders, but he was protecting the identity of whoever did. That's what, now here's where you start getting whether he's being manipulated. Because they may believe this, or they're just trying to get information, but they also implant ideas. If you're trying to get out of certain charges, you're like, okay, I'll go along with that. Like at some point you might agree with whatever they say. Now, mind you, Richard Allen was a known person to be on the trail. It's possible they did mention, hey, what about that Richard Allen guy? And he's like, are you protecting him? And Klein goes, how much time do I get off of my sentence if I say I'm protecting him? What if I claim he did it? Will I get time off? Because so this is where it gets all murky. And you can't necessarily believe that Klein on his own wasn't led to say certain things. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying you got to be aware of this. All right. Now the source has revealed that Klein had cut a deal with prosecutors. The search warrants on Allen's home and property were carried out based on Keegan's testimony. Let's say the police wanted to search Allen's home, but they had to have something to go in with. So they're like, hey, come on, Keegan, tell us. He's involved, right? If they can get him to say yes, they can get a search warrant. And we'll give you a deal. We'll take off some of the charges. See, this gets really, a lot of people think that the police have planted evidence and that Allen is not guilty of anything. I don't agree with that. But I do not necessarily think they could not coerce or manipulate someone into giving certain information or agreeing to certain things in order to expedite what they want to accomplish. All right, so Indiana State Police, Carroll County spokesman Sergeant Jeremy Pierce would neither confirm nor deny any of the details. All right, he said law enforcement has not released any of those details or anything beyond what is in the probable cause. The source claims that Klein, from whose devices police retrieved a slew of child pornography, knows Allen. They claim he knows Allen. And it's really interesting. The claim eventually, I'll show you what the claim eventually is, and that the men met when they both lived in Peru, roughly 40 miles northwest of Delphi. He knows him from Peru. So I looked this up. I'm like, okay, like when? Turns out that Keegan Klein was about 10 years old when Allen was in Peru. So it's possible because Allen's daughter is the same age as Keegan. Were they classmates? I don't know. Did they just know each other as classmates? But just because you once knew the kid when he was a classmate of your daughter's, if that's even true, doesn't mean you knew him when he was in Delphi. I mean, my kids grew up with a whole lot of kids in the neighborhood they lived in. I don't know any of those kids today. Because somebody said, you remember so-and-so? I go, yeah, I do remember that kid. Doesn't mean we have, we're like buddies or anything today. So, yeah, so Keegan Klein was 10 years old when Allen was in as far as I can see, in Peru. And so it's not like two men met each other back then in those days and had a friendship. This is a kid and an adult. So make of it what you will. The source also claims both men knew Ron Logan. And how is that true? I don't know. Whom police first pegged as a suspect of the killings after the girls' bodies are found on his property some 1,400 feet from his home. An FBI search warrant served on Logan's home and property dated March 17, 2017, revealed that on February 14th, the day after the killings, Logan asked a relative to provide him with a false alibi. That's true. Logan had all kinds of issues. He was, he had issues. He told a cousin to say that he'd been taken, was not around the property at the time this all happened. That's what he said. All right. So Logan's alibi was shown to be a lie, true. And the text messages retrieved from his phone showed that he was out of his house and in the vicinity of the murders. No, they didn't. I mean, it's just, no. That really didn't show he was in the vicinity of the murders at all. Because it's an area where that's not like the pinging right at that spot. The FBI document also noted Logan asked relative to lie for him. That's true. He died at 84, was never named a suspect. All right. But they claim he has a history of violence. Yeah, with women he knows, not with raping and killing girls. All right. According to the source, the unknown source, investigators believe that the plan had been for Alan to kidnap the girls and bring them to Logan's house where he and allegedly Klein would rape them. So I've always believed that Alan worked on his own, because most of the time serial killers, and I do believe him to be one, work on their own because they don't want to have extra people around to screw up. They don't need to do that. They can find people on their own, victims on their own, rape and kill them, and then go back home and eat dinner with their family. Last thing they want to do is have to have this huge setup. Could this have happened? It would be unique. It would be unusual. Could it have happened? I can't say it isn't an anomaly, but I don't have any proof that this is a kidnapping. This was a whole plot gone wrong. So in other words, they're saying that what happened was he was supposed to go there and bring them to Logan's home, but he's so incompetent that he couldn't control the two girls. So when he couldn't control them, okay, now this is where it starts to make no sense, that he decided instead to knife and rape one and almost decapitate the other. That's the claim here. And he never brought the girls to Logan's house. Now, let me tell you something. If you can get to the point where you can control those girls enough to rape and kill them, you can control them enough to bring them to Logan's house. Even if they run from you, then you get them in control again. Then you take them where you're going. I think his little buddies will be a little pissed off that, well, you went and did that all on your own and didn't bring them to us. Now you involved us and we didn't even get any of the fun. This just sounds ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. It sounds, and there's no evidence that Logan was ever around there. There's no proof of that. So we have Alan on the path. We have Alan's evidence at this crime scene. We have evidence that, alleged evidence, and he's been arrested for the assaults on the girls. And the fact that he would be bringing them to Logan's house so they could all have a party with him, I find that hard to believe. And that he failed so badly he couldn't get the girls up there. They're little teenage girls, okay? You got a gun? I think you can control them fairly well. So I guess what they're trying to indicate is they went for run for it, so he ended up killing them there, and then that was it. He just raped and finished murdering them off and didn't bother to share with his buddies. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. That just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop right there. The problem with this stuff coming out is that, again, everybody jumps to conclusions. So now we're going to hear a whole round of, see, we told you so. Clearly, this is what happened. There's a sex ring. There's a sex ring in Delphi, and there's this huge sex ring, and they're kidnapping all kinds of girls, children, and raping and murdering them. Don't exaggerate. It's been 6 years. Nobody else has been raped and murdered. There's no proof of a big, huge sex ring. I think there is a perverted little Keegan Klein who's a catfisher and an incel. And there is an Alan I don't know, Logan. I think Logan's just a loser, who happened to live in the area. That's my opinion on it. I don't have proof yet of whether I'm right or wrong, but I just say to people, stop jumping to conclusions that this is all true. We just don't know yet. Let's wait and see what the trial has to bring out, whether there's any evidence that these three men actually knew each other and actually acted together. There's also the possibility that they could vaguely know each other, or there could have been some way that, for example, Alan found out about the girls going to the bridge, or he could have heard them talking. Who knows? Who knows? But we don't know yet that the three of them colluded in getting the girls to the bridge, so they then could all three participate in a sexual assault on the girls, which would then end up being murder. That's just so weird to me. I find that hard to believe, because if you want to get caught, that's the best way to get caught, is to have too many people committing a crime like that, where I don't know. It's just not something I'm familiar with as being a normal kind of thing that would have happened. Could it be an anomaly? Yes. There's always an anomaly out there. And when that happens, you go, well, I'll be damned. But I don't necessarily believe it's true. And so I say, in spite of the Daily Mail and their sources and all their claims, let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see. All right. All right. That's my second thing today, because that was brought to me, and I really, really wanted to not talk about either one of those crimes today. Really, I did. I was trying to avoid it. Oh my God. Klein he's definitely a porker, and from what I see about him, sometimes what happens when people are extremely overweight and not really successful in the world, they do hide behind the computers and they pretend to be somebody else. It gives them that thrill. It gives them the power and control they like. They get the nude pictures, they talk sex, and they get to be seen as somebody they're not. That's fun. That is exciting to be seen. People complain about my thumbnails because they're like, hey, why don't you put real pictures of your face on the thumbnails? And I'm like, because I have more fun with FaceApp, And when I look at my thumbnails, I'm like, I look good, Okay, I want to deceive myself. I'm happy doing that. So, people do that because it makes them feel better. So you go online and you pretend you're some hot dude, and a girl reacts to you like you're a hot dude, not like your big fat King Klein, which gets you nowhere at all. It's depressing. So that he had an online life doing this, I get that. But that he colluded with two other men to kidnap the girls and actually rape and murder them, that's pretty extreme. Could it have happened? Maybe. Don't know. Michaela says everyone is either an incel or a psychopath, or both. Some incels are psychopaths. Mm-hmm. Let's say. Let's see. Maybe Alan knew Klein's dad. He was creepy too. Maybe Klein's dad was. Keegan's dad, Tony, was more his age. But again, I don't know how creepy he was, because, you got to watch out for, like, the murder sheet had people coming on and talking crap about Tony Klein. And I swear to God, somebody could come on and tell you crap about Pat Brown. So somebody comes on, oh my God, I met that Pat Brown. Pat Brown, she lived next door to me and she was like this and she was like that, because they don't like me, or they want to be on, want to be heard. They want to be famous. I don't know what kind of guy Tony Klein was. I don't know. Never met the guy. Don't know. And won't go there. Now, Keegan Klein, clearly he was catfishing. I can go there. But Tony Klein, I have no proof that he was catfishing with Keegan. I have no proof that he was a creepy guy. Keegan was his son. That's not a good look. But I'm not going to go with gossip coming from some people who once met him and knew him, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's just not really. But yes, could he have known Tony Klein? But yes, he could have. But you would think somewhere earlier on they would have connected all of that. But who knows? Let's see. Let's see what else you have here. I agree, Pat. In the absence of any evidence, I think Alan worked alone. Until we get evidence. Now, there is that one guy who keeps saying that, that he believes that prosecutor says he had somebody else helping him. But that could be anything. It could be the wife helping him after the fact, trying to, because she thinks he's innocent. She could be, that kind of thing where she's hiding stuff or lying about stuff, giving him an alibi that he doesn't really have. That can be somebody who's helping him, but not necessarily in the crime itself. Until they prove to me, and they may at some point, that there was an actual discussion between three men that they were going to converge on these girls, bring them to Ron Logan's house and all have a huge sex orgy with them and then kill them all. Killed both of them. Wow. That would be a weird one for the books. Let me put it that way. Would be a weird one for the books. All right. Let's see. Klein may have been making money by selling nude pics of underage girls. I don't think he had a job. How else does he get his money? Now, that's an interesting point. This is different than a sex ring. This is one creepy dude selling pictures of underage girls. Is that possible? Yes. That's not a sex ring. That's just, like you said, guy needs to make some money. Possible. Yeah, possible. Sarah says it's scary in the comments section out there. I like being one of the things I like about the chat room is that at least there's a relatively decent chat room we have here. Most of you guys are great. I've had to block one person, but other than that one person, so far it's been really good. But in the comments section, oh my God, I do try to block users who come in and say really outrageous things and attack me or attack other people in a really rude and horrifying way. I will just block them off the whole channel. They're never subscribers, it's just always fascinating to me because I always look at the subscription rate before, and after I knock them off, amazingly enough, I never lose a subscriber. So, you can see they're there to cause trouble. And I'm not saying a person can't have a different opinion, but there's a way to express a different opinion, and there's a way to just be very, very rude and very cruel and mean and sometimes just plain out flat, just lying. So, and I see it happen to other people, not just me. So it's just what happens on the internet. People sometimes say to me, "Oh, Pat, don't worry about those people." Hey guys, I'm not worried about those people. I've been around for over 2 decades. In the beginning, I used to keep like an email, I would have a file for all the haters. It was called Haters and Crazies. And I used to put everybody in there who just sent stuff to me like that. And, I don't do that anymore because it's been if I counted up how many people have said horrible things about me, it's a really long, somebody said if I put little if I took out little pieces, I could paper my whole house with them, You get used to it. So I'm not taking it to heart. It's not like it hurts me. It's annoying because I like to have positivity on the channel, but it says we have differing opinions, and of course I have expressed a differing opinion about Ken Mains having this psychopath on his channel. And again, I like a lot of what Ken Mains says. I like when he talks about crimes on his own, about his own experiences and his own analysis. I just can't go with having that guy on there, and I hope he dumps him. I do. I just hope you do, Ken. That is concerning to me because that's giving a psychopath and a killer a platform, and I don't think he deserves it. And I don't think people should listen to him. You shouldn't have people listening to him. You're a much better profiler than he is, and he doesn't need to be there. Let's see. Let's see. I have some funny things here, but I can't put them on the screen. I can't. Pat Brown dating site, it's like Craigslist for true crime fans. We have so many different methodologies now of expressing ourselves on dating sites and Tinder and oh my God, Craigslist was the original where you had to be really careful of who you hooked up with there. And of course, they became the prostitution site. And they also became a dangerous site because people would advertise stuff and people come to your house and kill you. Now we have Facebook Marketplace, which you can advertise on, stuff. And generally speaking, most time people are nice, but, you can always get the loony, or the psycho. But then there's so many the dating sites are the ones that I personally am totally opposed to, because dating sites, I know people meet people on these dating sites like Match.com and say, oh my God, I met the love of my life and now we're married and we're happy. We've been together for 5 years and best thing ever happened to me. That may be true, but man, there's a whole lot of lying and a whole bunch of lying going on there. Married guys who are claiming they're not married, people who are lying about who they are. And my opinion is just, if you're going to go on there, never meet anybody except at a coffee shop where you drive to middle of the day, you meet them, ask to see their driver's license, learn about them. Don't spend time with them alone. Go and meet them 3 or 4 times, go to a museum together, drive to the museum, see them there, go to, stay in a public place, get to know them a little bit, find out who they are. It's just really, really dangerous. And so the minute you go off with them alone, you may not come back. So that scares me. It really does. Well, that would be interesting. Oh, I'm trying to find that one. Weed out the wonkers. I don't have wankers. I don't have time for all that. There's so many of them. There are so many on dating sites. I mean, like ridiculous numbers, like 99% out of 100 are garbage. And people say, oh, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to get a prince. I'm sorry. You shouldn't be wasting time kissing frogs. That's not what you should do as a human being. You should only be going out with princes, and you should know them theoretically. What people used to do was meet people through other friends and relatives so that they knew who these people were through church and whatever. So they had some concept of who they were. You didn't just pick them up off of, Tinder and go meet some guy who wasn't even his right name, and you just end up dead at the end of the night. And so let me see where I'm at here. Okay, so let me do a show. I got to tell you about this one. Okay, so I have a story on that, so I can get away from. For the end of the show, I can get away from Idaho and Delphi. All right, this guy. Here's this guy. All right, this guy. He was on a site. Yes, he was, and a very nice and very nice looking fellow, nicely dressed and all this stuff. Seems like a decent enough fellow. Hold on, let me find the guy. Okay, he was on. Let me find it. Hold on. Okay, his name is Khalil. Hold on a second. Wait. Hold on a second. We got a slow internet here. Come on, pull up my page. Okay, here we go. Khalil Wheeler Weaver. All right, that's his name. He targeted vulnerable women via social media and then went on a 3-month killing spree. All right. How did he do this? Get this one. See this woman here? This woman, her name is Sarah Butler. She was 20 years old. She texted him 53 minutes before he murdered her. And she said to him, get this one, you're not a serial killer, right? Yeah, he was. And see, this is the thing. People joke around with this stuff. Oh, well, I'm going out with you. You're not a serial killer. Well, the fact is, you're joking with him means you don't even have a clue who this guy is. And yes, he can be. So, oh my God. Tragically, that was the case. Wheeler Weaver murdered 3 women, including Butler, between August and November and attempted to kill a 4th. However, he's an idiot, so he left a trail of evidence. He lured his victims via dating apps. And the social media application Tagged, this is a new one on me. I've never heard of Tagged before. I'm not dating on social media. But Tagged is a new one, apparently. Butler's friends and families utilized the Tag app, good for the family, to hunt down her murderer and bring him to justice, as they were determined to discover her killer. For his grisly crimes, the so-called tagged killer was ultimately sentenced to 160 years in prison. Most people did not perceive Khalil as a cold-blooded killer. He was neatly groomed and well-dressed, yet he had a deeply concealed dark side. So, you look at this guy, and I mean, and if this wasn't just his courtroom appearance, if he was actually just dressed like this, neatly groomed, you would easily think that this guy worked for a tech company or something and had good education. He wasn't like like some gangbanging looking dude. This guy looks like somebody I'd say to my daughter at that, if she were that age, oh, he looks like a nice guy. Yeah, but he wasn't. So a few details are known about his early life, but get this one. They do say he grew up in a happy home in a prosperous neighborhood in Orange, New Jersey. So let's say several members of his family are law enforcement officers. Late in 2016, the 20-year-old worked as a security guard at a hotel and a supermarket. Remember what I said about serial killers? What's their number one job? Can somebody tell me what I always say? What's the number one job of serial killers? What's the number one job of serial killers? I'm waiting for the answer. I just gave you, of course, I did give you the answer, but number one job is restaurant work. No, security work, security guard. Yep, security guards. And the reason this is true, and people wonder why because again, I have one son who's been a security guard, one son who has been a bouncer. So believe me, I'm not saying my own sons are serial killers, but both of them will tell you those are two easy jobs to get if you can breathe. And they are so desperate for people that they'll take pretty much anyone who can breathe. And so serial killers like the authoritarian part of it. They can't get police officer job, except now that we can't get police officers, they're letting guys in that are probably guys who should be security guards. But now they're getting into law enforcement. That's what happens when you make the job so that very few people want it. You end up with psychopaths. So, but for them to get that uniform, possibly the gun, for armed security, they like that stuff. And so it is a very easy job for them to get. They don't have to have a good job record, and they can get the job just like that. So that's why you have so many. That's why so many serial killers have been in security work. And there he is again. Wheeler Weaver was regarded by cops as cool and helpful. This quiet young man was nevertheless planning a series of terrible killings. First victim was 19-year-old Robin West. According to her mother, she experienced mental health difficulties at the time of her disappearance. The day following her disappearance, you wouldn't believe how close they were to this guy from the beginning and didn't do anything about it. This is kind of, I might say, bad police work here. The day following her disappearance, police responded to calls of a fire in an abandoned residence. When they entered the residence, they discovered West's burned remains. So this poor woman. Her body was so extensively charred that it was not possible to identify her until 2 weeks later using dental records. Due to the condition of her remains, it was impossible to ascertain the reason for her death. However, get this one, guys. Wheeler Weaver told authorities that he had gone to a restaurant with West. So they actually knew who was with her, right? And then dropped her off at an abandoned house 2 blocks from where she was found when he was later questioned about her murder. Okay, so he was the last person to see her. And one of the things a killer often do is say he dropped her off at some location where then it is conceivably possible somebody else killed her, you see. But just weeks after the discovery of West's death, another lady vanished under suspicious circumstances. Joanne Brown, who was 33 years old, was also experiencing homelessness and mental health issues. On October 22nd, 2016, she was last seen entering Wheeler's vehicle. She was reported missing later that month. Okay, so now he's the last person to see 2 women. You think he should have been kind of like a major suspect. The remains of Brown were discovered in a different abandoned house. Tape covered her mouth and nostrils. The eventual cause of death was determined to be suffocation. Sarah Butler, the 20-year-old sophomore at New Jersey City University, was Wheeler's third and final victim. She was killed on November 22nd, 2016. Butler differed from the other victims, and that she was not a sex worker nor a mental health patient. In addition to her being near to her family, she was pursuing a degree. Okay. Later, they said that the way he picked his victims was he thought they were somehow less than human and less desirable, and that she would not be missed. But this is what led to his capture, this woman. Butler was at home for Thanksgiving when she met Wheeler Weaver on the social networking site Tagged. Prior to Butler's decision, the two had intended to go on a date. Now get this. but ultimately did not. However, when Wheeler Weaver offered her $500 for sexual services, she consented. So that is prostitution. So they said she wasn't. But now, mind you, I don't know if this is what he says and it's not true. You got to remember, I don't know where this information is coming from. If they have this from actual information on like text or something, then she was involved in prostitution. If that came from him, then he might just be lying about her just to mess with the family. Because a lot of times they'll mess with the family by saying, oh, that person was this or that, or they did this and that. And then the family lives forever with that concept that the person that they loved was not quite what they thought. So anyway, Butler, that's when she said right before their date or rendezvous, you're not a serial murderer, are you? Butler informed her mother that she would be meeting a friend and borrowed her vehicle. This was the last time they ever saw her. Then they found her body. Now, just prior to the murder of Butler, another woman named Tiffany Taylor reported to authorities a near fatal contact with Wheeler Weaver. My God, this guy's like all over the map. It's like he's a terrible serial killer. He's like, he keeps being hooked to these people. I don't know how this guy is not like, the big target on him. Taylor, who was 34 and many months pregnant, was currently homeless. She relied on sex labor to survive. She told authorities she made a deal with Wheeler Weaver to pay her for sex. They left in his automobile. Then he donned a ski mask. They met in a motel, and then he donned a ski mask. What was the point? She already saw his face. I don't get that. Okay. And he proceeded to handcuff and duct tape Taylor's mouth. In the rear of the vehicle, he raped and strangled her until she lost consciousness. Then she woke up, and she was able to convince her captor to drive her back to the motel. She ran inside, closed the door, and then he was gone by the time police arrived. She called 911. She told them who he was. I find that really hard to understand. So anyway, the reason he got caught was for the woman who said, "Are you a serial killer?" They went through her messages, and they found that she vanished after logging into that account, and they just determined that he was the guy. And then they did an undercover operation, and they finally got him. But my God, the guy's like the worst, stupidest serial killer ever, and he still got to kill 3 women before he got caught. It was really sad. But if you have to ask a guy, you're not a serial killer, are you? Probably you shouldn't be meeting him. Why was she going on a date with this guy? I mean, she was an attractive woman. This is where I really don't get it. Look at this woman. She's pretty. She's a student. Why are you going out with some creepy dude on the internet? Can't you, through your school, meet another student, through church, something. But why are you going out with this creepy dude on the internet? You don't even know who he is. Why? I don't understand it. She's not suffering from being unattractive. She really isn't. I mean, it's not like, hey, I can't get a date. Like I'm a female incel, and I'm like, I'll take anything. Please have sex with me. That girl can get anybody. She's a good-looking girl. I don't get it. I really don't. Don't understand it. Okay, so let's see. Let's see here. Good question, Sarah. What does it say when someone cannot pass the psychological part required by the police department? Not asking for me or a friend. Well, they do psychological tests, and that does weed out a few of the creepy people. But then again, it's a perception on the part of the person who is doing the test. And what we're seeing happening is with the fact that the police departments now are desperate for new police recruits. They can't get police recruits anymore. People are retiring and they can't replace them because the whole attitude of the public against the police and the danger of police work right now, getting shot in your cruiser, getting accused of doing something, and then losing ending up in jail away from your family. It's such a risk now that a lot of people I'm not touching police work. So then who does apply for the job? And if they're desperate, let's say they really need 30 new recruits, and normally they get 200 recruits and they have to narrow it down to the 30. Now they're lucky to get 5 recruits. So they're like, are you breathing? Okay. You're a little weird, but okay. Well, then you start dropping your The bar goes lower and lower and lower and lower. And then you get people you really don't want in the police department. So, we're going to have to, the public is going to have to decide when they want to, when they're going to get, try to fix this problem. Because, like, I know I'm in Prince George's County, Maryland, and DC and PG County, we are out of control with youth crime, with homicides. It's just wacky. It's terrible. People are getting killed. Let me show you another case. I just got to show you this one. I think this will be my last thing for this evening, but I got to show you this one. See this beautiful girl? This is a beautiful girl. This beautiful girl. Let me tell you who she is. This is the one that kind of makes me sniffle. Okay, it does, because she comes from my town. This is a beautiful girl from my town. All right, this beautiful girl. Hold on one second. Let me find her. So upsetting. All right. Her name is Alyssa Banks. She was 18 years old. I think she was class valedictorian. No, class president. She is class president, this beautiful girl, class president of the high school my granddaughter will go to if she goes to public school. I pass that school every day at Largo High School in Bowie, sorry, not Bowie High School, Largo High School, which is right down the road from me. Not the same one, sorry. Largo High School, close by though. She was a class president of that. She was going to become an emergency medical technician. She wanted to be an EMT. She was dating a young man, and his name was Deshaun Moore. He was 20 years old. He was already graduated, but he was also studying to be an EMT. So they were dating. And here's what happened, which is just appalling. So what happened was, let me find the statement here of what happened. They were in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, which is close to my home, and she was helping him parallel park. Usually the guy helps the girl parallel park, but apparently this is a small space. So she got out to go, come on in and do this, right? While they were there, some guys approached their car. 3 guys were in a car, and they were approached, and they asked the man, asked him where he was from, and he said he was from Largo. And they started shooting. And the guy ducked, and they ended up shooting Alyssa and killing her. He was also shot, but they shot and killed Alyssa. They were gangbangers. And it was about a party. One of the gang members' party, somebody had been killed years ago, the year before. Let me find, I didn't find the actual, sorry, here. Oh, his name was, the guy they went to court was called Jose Vasquez. So anyway, let me go back and find it. I want to get this clear. Okay. During the early morning hours, a group of men from Riverdale area, Maryland, were driving around the Largo area to avenge the death of a friend who was killed at a house party. Okay. 2 of the men approached. That's when Jose Vasquez opened the passenger door and asked Banks' boyfriend, where are you from? And he said, I'm from Largo, because he was from Largo. I mean, it's an area of a town. And he started shooting. Banks' boyfriend ducked for cover and survived the shooting, but Banks, an honors graduate and student government president of Largo High School, shot in the head and later died. Neither belonged to the group that attended the house party or had anything to do with the killing that had taken place there. They were not gangbangers. They were not going to those scary parties. They weren't involved in any of that. They were great citizens. Students. 6 years later, it took 6 years for this to go to court. Vasquez, accused of killing Banks and wounding her boyfriend, is facing a jury at trial. He just got found not guilty. So this girl was shot to death, probably by the guy that was found not guilty, but he got off. This is the kind of crime we have escalating across the area. Kids being killed, teenagers being killed. Some of them are involved in crimes. Some of them are involved in gangs. Some of them are involved in drugs. But there are a lot of innocent people like this girl who didn't do anything wrong. Could have been any one of our daughters. And she's just going out doing the normal thing, and she gets shot down by some loser. And I see the creeping and crawling of the violence. This county I live in is a really nice county. I mean, I'm not the town. The county's a little messed up, but the town I live in is what has been known as the richest African American town in the United States, and has always had a very well behaved teenagers, and the parents are they work in government, they work as teachers, they're all quite wealthy. Some of them, they live in bigger houses than me. It's a nice town, but it's creeping and crawling our direction. We suddenly we have carjackings we've never had. We have people shot that we've never had. So the crime is getting out of control, especially with young people. And it's because there's no police presence anymore, and the jury system, not the jury system, the entire criminal justice system is not doing anything about these criminals, and they don't charge them with much, and they go right back on the streets, and so they're getting away with it, so they just don't care. And then we don't have any police joining the force anymore because nobody wants to join the force, so because they're afraid of what will happen if they do. And, it's funny because in our town, for example, they would love African Americans to join the police force, but they're going, yeah, I'm not taking that chance either. So, it's a mess. It's a big fat mess. But, we're going to see increased crime because of it. And we are seeing increased crime because of it. And innocent people have been killed. That's just really sad. Super sad. And scary. And really scary. I won't ride the metro in my town anymore because the last few times I've come out on the metro from Washington, D.C. to where I live, it's gotten sketchier and sketchier. And I've never experienced this before, but now there's so many, they're fare jumpers, they jump over they don't pay their fares. And there's a lot of teenagers and young men on there that are really questionable. And I've been approached by them and I've been harassed by them. I've had to jump off the train. I no longer will take the metro anymore. And this is not something I'm used to in this area. This is all new. So we're seeing an increase in crime that's, if we want to have a decent, community, we're going to have to do something about it. So anyway, that was it. Thank you. Lisa says, you did a video on it. Julie Rhea, I forgot how to pronounce her name, versus Tommy Lynn Sells, who really did it. Yes, that is the one I did on that. And I do not believe Tommy Lynn Sells had anything to do with it, but she got off. Yeah, they found her innocent. The Innocence Project came and got her out of there. Yeah. Well, I don't know how that would relate to today's topics. Just that I believe that she was guilty of killing her son, and that somebody, an author who I know, who writes about Tommy Lynn Sells, he claimed that he was there, and the evidence doesn't match that. So you have to go look at that show, but it just doesn't. It's not really quite what we're talking about here tonight. So, yeah, she claimed that she chased after the man who broke into her home and killed her son, which was a terrible story. A terrible story. Terrible story. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was Diane. Diane Fanning. Yes, I love Diane. We did Women in Crime Inc. was our blog together. That was my blog with I set that one up, and then Diane Fanning was one of the many people that participated. But she always wrote great stuff, and she has good books. I just disagree with her on this one case. So again, sometimes we disagree. It doesn't make me not be friends with somebody because then I'd have no friends at all. I'd have no friends at all. Can we just put them in a ring together? Can they just beat each other up? I mean, they're so appalling. Both of them are so appalling. Oops, sorry. 1 second here. Oh Lord. Anyway, okay, that's it for tonight. So I didn't go. I wasn't planning on a lot of the discussion on Idaho and Delphi. I really wanted to stay away from it, but when I see this stuff, I just what do? I got to say something. So I've said something. I hope I didn't piss everybody off and make everybody angry. And sorry, Ken. I like your show and I like what you have to say. I just hope you cancel whatever you're doing with this guy. I really do. I know people are finding it exciting, and I'm sure it's going to be very popular, but I just disagree with it ethically. I disagree with it And that's all I can say. Ethically, I'm totally against it. I don't think it helps anyone. I don't think what he has to say is worth anything. I think your input is much more valuable than his. And I think anybody you chose to have on your show with you from law enforcement or from profiling or from psychology or whatever you put, anybody you wanted to have on your show as a regular to do something with, I think would be better than this psychopath. So that's just my opinion. But again, you don't have to hate on Ken Maines. You don't have to unsubscribe. Just, I'm not happy with that portion of the show, and I hope it ends. I hope it does. I really hope it ends. So anyway, that's it for tonight. Let me see. Is my eye? How am I doing? Well, it's not too bad. Okay. I have makeup on, so I can't quite tell, but so, man, that hurt. It really hurt. Oh my God. So anyway, oh yes, he did. Peter Hyatt did do a live on, shoot, who was it on? Because I just saw it and I thought, oh good. What did Peter do it on? So tell me what it was on. Thank you very much, Sarah. Sometimes I just wonder if I'm just the only one who's crazy about certain things. Tell me what Peter Hyatt's thing was on. It was good. And I thought, oh, this is, and I want people to watch it, but I forgot what it was. Somebody tell me before I close. And again, if you're still here, not mad at me and aren't unsubscribing, subscribe to the channel and like the video. And that's right. It was on Casey Anthony. That's going to be a good one because Peter Hyatt pretty much has her pegged. So I'd be curious. I'll have to watch it and see what Peter has to say because it's going to be quite amusing. I am quite sure, and probably is much more worthwhile. Don't watch the stupid documentary and give them the time of day. Instead, just go watch Peter Hyatt. He'll save you the trouble. Okay, go. Yeah, he is my favorite. Peter Hyatt is, but Casey Anthony is not. Oh, he also talked about the Ramseys. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I like it. I like a lot of his stuff. His stuff is really good. And, he's been in the business a long time. And here's a person that, you can, again, I always say this. I don't always disagree 100% with somebody. And the reason I say this is not to down them because they shouldn't agree 100% with me. I want people to give people some leeway for differing opinions or sometimes just lack of perfection. I have people come on and they'll go, Pat, you missed this. I'm like, I'm sorry. I did the research and I missed one line some ways. I'm not perfect. I'm not. And sometimes I could screw up. So when I put up the Idaho thing, I put up Delphi Student Murders. And then right away, everybody's like, it's not Delphi, it's Idaho. And I went, crap. I just typed it wrong. So that happens. So yeah. What? I'm trying to figure out who this is. I watched a psychiatrist I'm not going to go there. I don't hate anybody. I'm not a hater, Okay. I hate psychopaths. I hate big fat liars. I do. I'm not that I do. I know. And hate, it's just like, I don't hate people who disagree. I have disagreements with over methodology. Like I'm not fond of FBI methodology and I'm not fond of John Douglas's methodology and his books. I'm not. I will say that because I find him very misleading, but I don't hate the guy, and I think if you want to read his book, go ahead and read his book. You have to judge for yourself, so you're always going to have, different disagreements, even in a field, especially when you come from different backgrounds and you have different ways of viewing how you should do the work. You're always going to have people who say that person's wrong. I don't like what they do. That's just life. Can't do much about that. Can't do much about that. But just have okay. Oh, him. I haven't got anything nice to say about him. Because I have personal experience with that man. And I'm going to say, he represents a personality disorder. And I won't say which one. Yeah. Not fond of him. That's a whole different matter. Oh, Lord. So anyway, that's it for tonight. I'm going to go crawl into my bed and watch Hawaii Five-O. I'm on season 10. This is the old Hawaii Five-O, one of the very few shows I believe shows actual proper detective and profiling work. So I'm totally in favor of that. And I am looking forward to Death in Paradise as the new season comes in very soon. I'm excited about that. That's my other favorite show. And other than those two shows, there's not much I think represents profiling and detective work. I mean, yes, it's true that both in Hawaii and what's the name of the island they're supposedly on and Death in Paradise? I mean, obviously people get killed every week there, and you're like, I'm not moving to that place. I'm not going to go visit there. I mean, you're going to get killed in within seconds. You're going to arrive, and then somebody in your party will kill you off. That's all exaggerated, and of course, the crimes are a little bit, exaggerated as well. But I do love the thinking process. Both of them do a police procedural thinking, and they work with nice people, and they're not ridiculous like the modern shows are a lot of times. Just so stupid. I'm like, I can't watch this crap, So yes, Hawaii is lovely, and I wish I were living there. I was going to go there this January, but the prices are outrageous. So I will be live streaming from Puerto Rico in January. I'll go there Samurai. That's right, Samurai. So I will be there in Puerto Rico in January for a couple weeks anyway. And I do love Oahu. That's my favorite place in the world. But man, the price is ridiculous there, and they've killed Airbnb there. I don't know what to do about that. It's so sad, because I want to be there. Oahu is my happy place. But anyway, maybe Puerto Rico will become my happy place. We'll find out. So I'm going to be there, and I'll see. They do have a problem with sometimes intermittent internet, and some problems with the electricity going down. I'm only going to be there for 2 weeks, so I'm hoping I'm not going to get completely screwed. But I'm going to take my studio there, and I will be working out of there. So, oh, really? That would be my second choice, Puerto Rico. Yes, yeah. So, yeah, I've been there before, like for 5 days, but this time I'm going to stay 2 weeks and rented a little house in San Juan. I don't know. We'll see how it all goes. I'm looking forward to it, but the old power grids, yeah. So if we do a live show and all of a sudden I just vanish, it's Puerto Rico. So I may have to come back and do part 2. I don't know. Well, we'll see how it goes. If it goes really, really well, and I love Puerto Rico, that may be where I start going there in the winters, because I do not like the cold. I do not like it in Maryland, and it's already nasty here. So I want to get out. Anyway, thank you all for being here and being such a lovely chat room as usual. You're also fantastic. And let's hopefully I don't lose all my subscribers over my concerns about the psychopath that I don't think should have a platform. So, yeah, that's just my viewpoint. So anyway, thank you very much for being here. See you next time.